Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, presented by AT&T 5G. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Matt Doyle. I almost said Charlie Davies. I was this close. I had the long pause. I was like, not Charlie Davies. We miss him. He's unable to be here today. Was doing more important things, of course, but we'll get him back next week. It was unfortunate, though, because he had some Yunus Musah takes that we needed to air out a little bit on this show, Doyle, and we'll do our best to examine those at a later date. Some people were not happy about our USMNT locks. No Timothy Weah, they said. How is that possible? How is Matt Turner not a lock? And you know what? Yunus Musah locked in? There's some interesting takes on the Twitter thread we put out. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But I want to start with this. Do you guys miss MLS yet? Because I kind of was ready for the break, but now I'm like, okay, well, it's the weekend. There should be a full slate of games. I'm putting the rundown together. There's not as much to talk about as I would like to have.
But you had Vancouver RSL last week.
We talked about it.
That doesn't tide you over for a full 2 weeks?
That's like an aperitif, man. That's just like a little taste, you know? Like, you just get a little bit, and then you want more. You're like, dinner's coming. Where's the rest of the meal? This is the first course.
To be clear, aperitif is not the first course. I'm pretty sure it's a drink that you use to prepare your stomach. Yeah. No, not at the end. That's a digestif.
Yeah.
An appetizer is what you were looking for. The word you were going for.
Aperitif is not a real thing. I thought aperitif was like a shot at the beginning that you take to get things started.
Well, like Aperol is an aperitif because the herbs in it help you get ready.
And Sambuca is a digestive.
Exactly.
So it was. I used it correctly because I was.
But you made it.
I thought it would be the
food.
Start of a meal. Well, yeah, the start of a meal. You prepare yourself. It's just a little. Anyway.
I'll let the people judge you.
Look, one if by light, two if by dark. All right, Dave? One if by light, two if by dark. All right. Look, we miss MLS, no doubt about it. We will talk more about MLS in this show, but I just want to flag for all of you that are big-time international soccer fans as well. We are doing watch-alongs on Twitch and YouTube Live for every USMNT and every Canadian men's national team game from now all the way through the World Cup. Had a little bit of a hiccup with the Canadian national team, as we talked about on the last show. We had a great show planned. Weren't able to do it. We have an even better show for the Curacao game tonight. So if you are the sort of person that downloads ETR and listens like the moment it comes out on podcast at 5 p.m. Eastern or on YouTube at 7, Tesho, Akindele, Kaylin Kyle, Susanna, and Kaylin tonight watching Canada-Curacao. Paramount Plus, so if you're in the U.S., this is available to you. 2DN as well, and then One Soccer in Canada. So get it on, get a second screen going. Tesho obviously has been with this group as a player, knows these guys in and out. Kaylin Kyle has played a ton of international soccer and has a ton of opinions about what's going on with this team and Canadian soccer in general. And Susanna and Kaylin are entertaining, and we love them. So
what's fascinating is they've both played for John Herdman.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And it's a really interesting. It was an interesting conversation when he took over, right? What the switch would be like for him. And I think in this moment, when you have both teams sort of working together, sort of working separate with the CSA, it's interesting where John Herdman sits in this whole thing.
Anyway, it's going to be very interesting, this watch-along show. Tonight, Canada-Curacao, and then on Friday night, late, I believe it's 10 p.m. Eastern Time, myself, Charlie Davies, Shalrie Joseph, we will watch U.S. Grenada with you. That's on ESPN Plus in English. So it's exclusive to ESPN Plus. So I assume that you probably have it if you listen to the show because all the MLS non-national TV games are there, but that's where you can watch in English. You can also watch on Unimas and 2DN. Nobody better to watch this match from an opponent perspective, but also understanding the core of the USMNT than Shalrie. So really excited about that, and we will, of course, grill Charlie about, again, his Yunus Musah takes. All right, coming up today from the AT&T 5G virtual studios, we have Brandon Vazquez on the show. Round of applause. Brandon Vazquez, one of the three young Americans in and around the Golden Boot race right now.
Doyle, you didn't clap.
Come on, yeah. There you go. Let's go.
Doyle, you seem like a person who likes to be in a big crowd and told what to do and follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. Exactly that. Yeah.
You're like a call and response guy. If I had to pick out anybody, it's Doyle. Call and response. Non-linear career arcs. Well, Brandon Vazquez has one. A lot of the guys that are in this USMNT team right now, he was teammates with U17 and youth national teams. We'll talk to him about that, about FC Cincinnati's resurgence, about his own path into the USMNT. Yeah.
Wait, can I just point out that an arc is already non-linear?
Oh, my God. You can. It is allowed for you to point that out. It has now been pointed out that it is non-linear, these arcs. And I'm going to, you know what? I might go straight Michael Bradley or Bob Bradley the rest of the show and just
Actually, linear doesn't mean
talk
straight, does it? Linear
like
just means a line.
this. Correct.
So an arc can actually be linear.
Yeah, so this is an interesting arc from you in this sense. Almost circular in some ways.
This is definitely the worst 35 seconds in ETR history,
That
which
can't
is a
possi-
competitive
that can't-
conversation.
That can't possibly be true. Power rankings, the worst.
Yeah,
30 seconds
Weeby,
in
give me the
ETR
best
history.
11 of worst moments in ETR
I
history.
got you, bro. I got you. Just give me a couple hours and I'll bang that thing.
Doyle
up.
will make the
MLSsoccer.com.
tiers, and then you could throw them into an
Exactly.
11.
Exactly. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. So we'll also talk USMNT, of course. What is Gregg Berhalter going to do against Grenada and El Salvador? How should he approach these games? Send people home, play the first team, play all backups. What's he going to do? We'll talk through that and give our USMNT 11. The big questions John Herdman has to answer for the World Cup for Canada. We will dive into those. We'll play out-of-contract MLS Matchmaker. That's out of contract at the end of this year. And we'll talk transfers. Adam Buksa, Mauro, Manotas, and Griffin Yow? Yes, Griffin Yow. So get ready for that. Before we jump into this, I just want to say thank you.
Oh, my God,
I
Doyle.
was sent... What?
Sorry. We should have a Bella Ciao Griffin Yow song. How perfect is that?
Can we extend this to the worst minute and a half in each other?
I don't know, man.
Griffin Yow,
Anytime Bella
Griffin
Ciao
Yow, yow.
is brought up, that's a good minute. That's a good minute right there.
I was going to say, just really appreciative to get this MLS Pride Top. It's the third year that these are being done by the league. So I would say, first of all, if you have disposable income and you're looking for a worthwhile organization to donate to, Athlete Ally is a really good one to donate to. And there are a lot of, let's say, issues around the LGBT community and oppression therein. And we're seeing it in state governments and the way high school athletes are being treated and otherwise. Educate yourself. It is Pride Month. It's not a time to just, wear jerseys like this and sort of rah-rah. It's a time to educate yourself and support the organizations and people that need it and take a stand in your own life. So I hope we can all find time to do that this month and ideally every month. But let's jump into it.
Also the best Pride Top they've made so far.
I
It is
agree.
so
I
cool.
really
I
like
got
it.
mine over there. I gotta go get mine. Put it
All
on.
right.
I'll
We'll
be right
get,
back.
yeah.
What team did you get, Weeby?
I got Philadelphia for some.
You want to guess what team I got?
Obvious reasons. What?
Guess.
Austin. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Austin.
Nah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I got an Austin. By the way, I have an Austin parlay top, so I'm waiting to bust that one out.
Nice. I walked into my apartment with my Pride Top, and Megan's like, "Oh, is it named a team?" And I was like, "No, you won't guess it." She proceeded to guess 27 MLS clubs.
Really?
And it was not the.
So what would she not guess? That's where we're going. It can't be the Quakes because Doyle's got a Quakes.
Let's go quick.
I'm gonna guess Houston Dynamo.
No, it was Chicago Fire.
Oh, yeah, that's
Because I'm all in. They're a playoff team.
That's
Get
true.
ready.
That's true. Like print Mueller on print cash on the back, and you're ready to go. All right, let's start with USMNT here. I don't know. I have it in here. We're going to talk about the feedback on our USMNT lineup locks. Maybe I'll just throw some of those at you guys, and you can react. Timothy Weah says at least the very vocal Twitter masses that he is a lock.
I think I said that on our show, so I can't
think he
disagree
feels
with those people.
he feels close to a lock for me, but I wasn't comfortable yet with lock because I think there's competition at the position, and we weren't trying to go from like who do we think are locks, like our personal opinions, who would we play. We were trying to go from the 3G perspective.
But Weeby, let me ask you this. If he's not a lock because, let's say, I'm just guessing on your line of thinking, Gio Reyna gets healthy, is playing well, and starts in that spot, do you not think Timothy Weah is playing a different position and starting?
What is the other position, the 9?
Or the other winger if someone's hurt, right?
I mean, but that's if someone's hurt. We're operating from a point of view right now.
Okay.
Like the guys available are not going to break
So
down.
there's 3
knock
different
on
ways
wood.
Timothy Weah starts, though. Is that he earns his spot, which he has already done. He plays in a different position because no one else is there and he doesn't need to start on the wing. Or he is capable of playing on both sides. To me, that is why he's a lock, because he's going to be starting against Wales, no matter where it is.
What say you, Doyle?
Uh,
It's just full. I don't know. It looks like you saw a ghost. Looks like you're like in the middle of episode 4 of Stranger Things, and you're just like, wait, oh my god.
Episode 4 of Stranger Things, the fourth episode had this insanely great long take No spoilers, but like
Yeah, I was about to
Is
say.
is it
Yeah.
is it a confrontation between rival military factions? Perhaps?
Yes, it is.
Can I just a quick take on that one? I sleep in a spot in our room where the door is open and I can see the door that goes up to our attic. I've got to tell you, we watched it last night. I couldn't look at that particular door. And if you were watching Stranger Things, you would understand that. But anyway, on to Timothy Weah, Doyle. Did you agree with Dave's take?
No, because I don't think he's going to be in play to start at the 9. I think if Gregg Berhalter was considering that, we would have seen it already. We would have seen it sometime in the past 2 games. Weah himself has said he does not like to play as a true number 9. I know everybody thinks he does play as a number 9 for Lille, but they play a 2-forward system. It's very different than playing as a lone forward in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 or whatever is being tinkered around with here. I think it's reasonable to want to see him there, but I think that if he was actually in the mix for it, we would have seen it by now. We haven't. That means that he has to, if we're going to consider him to be a written in pen lock for the starting lineup, it has to be as one of the wingers. And like as great as he's been, I don't think it's like that right now. I think there's a chance that either Brenden Aaronson or Gio Reyna or both outplay him and win that job. And I'm not sure that. Go ahead.
I agree with you, Doyle. I guess what I would say is if we come down to it and Jesus Ferreira hasn't scored for the U.S. in a year except for against Grenada, and Haji Wright isn't
penciling in a couple goals, huh?
Yeah, Haji Wright isn't getting starts with his club team, and it's not Jordy People. I guess my point would be there is a chance that we get to November and Gio Reyna playing well and Brenden Aaronson playing well and Timothy Weah playing well turns into, well, this is what we're going to try because we just want that talent out there on the field. I don't want to see Timothy Weah at center forward. I don't think it's his best position. I think that he's been arguably our best attacking player at right mid, so I don't think he deserves to be pushed out of that spot. But there's 5% chance it happens, which is why I say it goes into I feel comfortable saying Timothy Weah will be on the field against Wales.
Okay. I feel comfortable saying that, but I don't feel comfortable calling it a lock. I think the smart money is on Weah starting that first game, but I just can't call it a lock.
I'm in that same boat. He is very close to a lock for me.
Right. Whereas if Pulisic is healthy, it's a lock. If Weston McKennie is healthy, it's a lock. If Tyler Adams is healthy, it's a lock. If Yunus Moose is healthy, I think that's a lock.
I don't know if there's a straw man army to gather in this front. It's unfortunate that Charlie is car bound right now to defend himself.
I could take a little Charlie on. I could do a little.
Right.
Here, let me. Dude, the Celtics was so good last night. Okay, I feel good. Lake Winnipesaukee.
Yeah. But do you need to do like a Sunday night That's Whack segment real quick just to get yourself in the right mindset?
Yeah.
We could do
Andrew
that.
Reeby, host, whack.
Whack.
Not a number one.
Whack. Oh man. Good thing I make the lineup, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, so react then, Doyle, to people that feel very strongly some kind of way about Yunus Musa, in a way that implies he shouldn't be on the field, or that he doesn't bring something others do, or that I don't even know if I want to say it, the Darlington Nagbe comparisons and all therein. What do you make of this reaction to Yunus Musa?
Well, I mean, to Charlie's credit, he's not saying that Yunus Musa is a bad player at all. He respects the hell out of what Musa brings to the table. He just wants more goals and assists. And for Charlie, what he was saying, let Gasman take it.
Don't take my take.
Yeah, sorry. Well, but what I've seen from a lot of the more, sort of thoughtful analyses of why Musa is someone who should be sat is that you can get the ball progression stuff from Weston McKennie that Musa brings to the table. Plus you have the set piece dominance and, late arriving attacking runs from McKennie. And then that opens a spot to put Brenden Aaronson in as sort of a number 10, like he played against Morocco.
Is it only Aronson, or is Gio Reyna part of that?
People have mentioned Reyna as well. Okay. But primarily it's been Aronson. And I get that, but I don't think McKennie, and certainly not Aronson, and really not Reyna either, none of them progress the ball from back to front the way Yunus Musah does. And it's not close. Like, McKennie has done that a couple of times for the U.S. The home game against Mexico, he was amazing. He got all over the ball. He was driving it forward. He's eliminating defenders off the dribble and off the pass. But even when he was doing that, he's not as ball secure as Yunus Musah is. And we saw it in two. I thought Musah was our best field player over these past two games. And specifically against Uruguay, if you think about the two best chances, the header that Ferreira put just over and wide from 4 yards out, and then 10 minutes later, it was a very similar thing where Weah gets down the right and it, sort of bends it in across the six, and it from inside the box, and it's just a fraction beyond Ferreira, so he doesn't get credit for a shot, but it was like this beautiful movement. If you look at the genesis of that movement, it starts 100 yards away with Musah getting on the ball, eliminating defenders, and his ability to push the U.S. into the final third on the run. I don't think anyone, well, I don't say that. I don't think either McKennie or Aronson has any demonstrated ability to do that consistently. Luca De La Torre does, but at a lower level, and I think he takes other things off the table that Musah brings. And while goals and assists are important, just putting out more guys who consistently get goals and assists with their clubs without thinking about the fit, that's not a good way to score more goals. I think the stuff that leads to goals and assists, guys who do that ball progression, guys who can take defenders out of the play further upfield and create these sort of secondary transition moments, I think that's just as important. And that's what Yunus Musah does for this team. And I think Gregg Berhalter recognizes it, because part of the reason he changed the team's midfield shape in these two games is to get Yunus Musah on the ball earlier in sequences, so that he can progress the ball further, cut more defenders out of the play, and force good defensive teams to turn around and run at their own goals. And he did it. Against Morocco, he did it, and then he did it to like an insanely high level against Uruguay, who was a really, really good team. So to me, it's like he's in pen. He's gonna be there.
Now I go.
Yeah.
Now you go.
Yeah.
Listen, Matt Doyle, I hear what you're saying, and that's great. And I love what Yunus Musah does as a player for the U.S. men's national team. But as a former number 9 on the U.S. men's national team and a BC Eagle, I have to say this. What he does for Valencia is not be goal dangerous, and maybe Gattuso moves him into that spot and he learns it. But you just explained how he was the best player on the field, and the U.S. ended with no goals. And that is the problem that you are seeing for this team. If they do not have a number 9 on the U.S. men's national team that is scoring goals, someone on the field needs to do it. And the game before, Brenden Aaronson scored those goals out of midfield. And against Mexico, Weston McKennie scored those goals out of midfield. So if you do not have a number 9 on the U.S. men's national team who is scoring goals, then other people have to be a part of it. And Musah might work in a team that had that player, but if they don't have that player, you need other goal scorers on the field. And if Musah's best game is a 0-0 tie, that sort of shows the issues. Did it feel good? I said number 9 in USMNT as many times.
Yeah, I
as
thought
possible.
you were going to
Did
come
you
out.
notice?
I didn't know you were going to fully channel the BC Eagle. I didn't get a full chuck on that one. I thought it was going to be like, I'm going to be a foil, but I'm not going to.
But that is the argument, right? Literally, the argument is Ferreira doesn't score the chance Musah helps create. Weah doesn't score. If no one else is scoring, at some point the chances Musah's creating are less helpful. And what can you do to change it? I don't think it's for every game. That's sort of what I'm seeing. Is this isn't this is the U.S. best team. This is, look, we have 3 opponents in 8 days, and some are going to play differently. And if Wales is going to sit really deep, is Moose's ability to play from our own 18 that helpful? Or do you want Weston McKennie to always be in the box? Do you want Brendan Aronson to be counter-pressing, to be goal dangerous? I don't think it's a fix-all right answer, but I do understand the idea behind there are opponents that he fits better against. Also, to be clear, we're talking about this as a 19-year-old who doesn't play center mid-year, day in and day out. Like, this may not be who he is in 2 years or a year or 5 years, but right now, this is the issue for the U.S., is scoring goals against high-level opponents, and he will affect that in a way, but if he's not a finisher or not goal dangerous at all, is there that negative?
So the rejoinder just goes back to the original point. Those gilt-edged chances that the U.S. missed against Uruguay, they don't happen in the first place if Musa's not out there. The U.S. struggled with ball progression when Musa was not out there throughout qualifying until, Luca De La Torre finally won that job as a like-for-like backup. Like, getting into the final third can be a challenge for this team, and dropping Weston McKennie into the Musa role doesn't change that. McKennie's his form before this latest injury with Juve, like he was playing as well as he's ever played. He was playing arguably at a level that no U.S. midfielder has ever hit before. But he wasn't doing it deep in midfield. Both Max Allegri and Andrea Pirlo created a system that was sort of based around McKennie's ability to just be this sort of like free attacker in the almost like the old Michael Ballack role, where he was like, okay, he's going to help out on defense, but he can't be your primary ball winner. He's going to help with ball progression, but he's not going to be your primary ball progressor. And he's going to help with chance creation and chance finishing, though he's not going to be your primary at all. He's just sort of like a jack of all trades doing that, and he was amazing at it. So I don't see why we would want to take him out of that role when he's playing it at a level that nobody else in U.S. history has hit. So it like those two things combined, and it means somebody good is going to be the odd man out, whether it's Brendan Aronson or Gio Reyna or Tim Weah. One of them is, two of them are probably going to sit. But this is a champagne problem, and to bring it back, I don't think we get to the point where those guys are missing chances if we don't have an elite ball progressor through central midfield. And that's what Musa has been from day one with the U.S.
When I think about it in the double pivot, I think a lot about Tyler Adams and putting Adams in more positions where he's comfortable. And we talked about it on the last show, whether it be, the pressure is one thing, but also in possession. I mean, just naturally Musa has a gravity that draws defenders because everybody's looking for him. He's on the ball a lot. He often drifts a little bit left. That's where he's able to progress the ball to Pulisic. That's where Jedi is, running at speed downhill. And if he's able to eliminate defenders, all of a sudden Jedi's in a better position to receive the ball, whether it be to combine with Christian or to get in and serve himself. I think he's a lock too. And I read into the change in sort of formation the same way you did, Doyle, because I don't know that there's another player that naturally fits that way. Like, I want to have Weston upfield. Like, I don't want him back. Like, his whole everything he does that's special seems to happen in and around the final third or driving in there.
But here's the thing, and I don't disagree.
But you're right about Wales. You're right about games.
Yeah, I don't. Who are you progressing through? Yeah. Joe Allen and Aaron Ramsey are going to play old school stopper in that game. Like this team does not extend their shape. There is really nowhere to progress. It's great, however, it'll look from Musa, but he will enter the final third every single time. So will the ball without them. So that is the question in that game. They're not going to extend their shape like Uruguay did, and I think also there was an element of 3 center mids that don't play together with Uruguay in that game that they kind of started to chase him a bit, which was great to watch. Listen, I think he's a great player. I'm taking this side because I am Charlie Davies.
You've taken it well.
I was required to, yeah. But we are in a matchup situation, and maybe against England, Yunus Musa is your best opportunity. Maybe against Iran, if they open their shape up a little bit more, if they press higher, which I think they will, then he would be the best player to accept that pressure, to break it with the dribble, and to create chances. But I genuinely feel in the first game, it is going to be in the final third already. And I look at Brendan Aronson receive that ball on the penalty kick for Pulisic. He receives it on the right, spins, left-footed curled shot. Yunus Musa is not going to do that, right? He's not going to be dangerous in any of those moments. And even when he breaks guys in the final third, he normally then cycles possession or finds a safer option where Aronson will be goal dangerous.
All right. I think we've
just want to say, if you want to hear Charlie's argument from Charlie himself,
yeah, that's a good point.
The In Soccer We Trust podcast from, I think, the June 4th or 5th with our good friends Jimmy Conrad, Heath Pierce as well. It's an interesting discussion. I understand the points that Charlie's made. I understand the points that you made, David. Yunus Musa, to me, in pen, no matter what. It's just like whether it's the double pivot, whether it's back to the single pivot, whether it's Wales, whether it's Iran high pressing, whether it's England in a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-2-1, Yunus Musa, if he's healthy, he's got to be out there for me.
Not to blow up the whole argument, I think now they actually type them up. I don't think it's handwritten at all anymore. So pen and pencil.
The instrument is sort of.
We like that one. It's a dad joke.
I did, and I was actually disappointed. I didn't see it coming, so I didn't have a good rejoinder to jump on the back end of it. Okay, let's talk Grenada real quick. Of course,
linear arc in this situation.
Yeah, the arc here. God, I couldn't connect the dots. Et cetera, et cetera. Myself, Charlie, Shalri Joseph will be talking about this. I'm sure with Shalri, great person to talk to about it. U.S. Grenada. ESPN Plus, Unimas Turien.
Shalri didn't score many goals or have many
I'm just
assists.
saying he understands.
He was a pretty decent midfielder, too.
Understands Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't know where you're going with that either. All right, what 11 do you want to see? How should Gregg use these games? We see that Charlie Boehm tweeting that Jesus Ferreira is part of the sort of the media lead up to this Grenada match, which generally means that player is going to start. Like, that's kind of the way it works. That'd be 3 straight starts for Jesus. That's a lot of opportunities from Gregg. It also sort of tells me that, I don't know, what kind of lineup do you play? Like, it's Grenada, but it's at home, so that's good. Then you go to El Salvador. It sort of feels like that, to me, is a natural opportunity to send some guys home. Christian and McKennie, I think, because he's just come back. Some others that need more rest after a European season. Doyle, how do you think Berhalter uses this game? What's the best way to use it?
I think it'll end up being like a B+ lineup, or maybe even closer to an A lineup than that. And I think it'll be exactly what you described, like a chance to get one last run out for the guys at sort of the top end of the depth chart, send a few of them home, and then bring on some of the guys who we all recognize as CONCACAF grinders for the trip to El Salvador. I'm surprised that it looks like it's Jesus Ferreira getting to start at center forward. I really thought it was going to be Haji Wright earning a start in this one, but I'm okay with it. Like the chances that the U.S. have gotten with Ferreira on the field have been superb, and if you if you believe in expected goals, the models tend to like how the U.S. plays with Ferreira out there. So I think it'll end up looking pretty close to what we've seen the past couple of games. There's maybe a coin flip between McKennie and Aronson. Maybe you don't want to start McKennie 2 games in a row coming off the injury. If Jedi is healthy, he starts. I think maybe a coin flip between Gannon and Yedlin.
Let's go through it. Let's just go through it. Yeah, goalkeeper. Right. You go Horvath. You go Turner. You go Johnson. Do you give Horvath an opportunity if the other two got one?
Yes, I would.
Why?
Horvath may be a step behind, but I as I've stated, I think there's confidence in all 4 goalkeepers, and so you give him an opportunity the same as you gave the other ones, especially if you're going to do the A-, B+ lineup, because I think he should get a shot to play with Walker Zimmerman and Aaron Long and Reggie Cannon and whoever it is, and so yeah, that's why I would give him that chance.
Isn't it theoretically more important to give Horvath the start in El Salvador? Because if you look at the guys who we think are going to be, in the mix for the next 10 years, and Horvath is young enough for that. Stefan and Turner are young enough for that. Stefan and Turner have both experienced meaningful games in Central America. Horvath hasn't. And
They're not. I hate to ruin this, but they're not going to have qualifying for 4 years, and then there's going to be 48 teams in the World Cup.
Yeah,
So like as much as I'd love to train for that, I think this was it. Like I think this was the genuine last CONCACAF World Cup qualifying we will see.
I think you're probably right, but like if you look at everybody else in the keeper pool, well, of the 4 keepers now who we think are legit, 3 of them have experience in Central America. With Sean Johnson, it's with his club team, but like we saw what that was like for NYCFC this spring. I just think it makes more sense to give Turner the game, release him back to the Revs, and then give Horvath the start in El Salvador. So disagreement there.
Okay. Back line. If I was going to say what I think happens on the back line, I think it's Jedi's health is really the only question mark to me. I think it'll be Yedlin, Long, Walker, and Robinson. And if we're talking about warm-ups for different styles of play ahead of the World Cup, Grenada is not Wales. I'm not going to make that comparison. I'm not trying to make that comparison, but they are not going to be expansive, and they are not going to push high up the field, I wouldn't expect. So I don't think Reggie Cannon is a guy that is likely to play in that scenario.
Why?
I don't know. I think he's shown that he likes Yedlin better. I don't know.
Because
you're saying the difference in shape and the way they build out with the ball?
Less that and more that, okay, if you go back to the pulley system with the fullbacks, right? Like left back goes, right back stays, right back goes, left back stays. Cannon hasn't gotten a chance to play that yet in this camp. In the past, he's been pretty good at it, and I think he's just more useful against a packed-in defense because he's a really good crosser of the ball. Like, really good crosser of the ball with either foot. And Yedlin, I thought, was very good getting forward against... Look, we all know that Yedlin's not the greatest crosser of the ball. So I think it just makes more sense to give Cannon a start in this scenario against a packed-in defense, just to see if he can knock the rust off and still do it, because he hasn't been playing like that as a fullback in Portugal for the past 10 months.
I could buy that. My logic probably goes back and tells me that you're right in the sense that DeAndre stays in this hemisphere, and well, Reggie probably does too, but he's gone through a full European season, so he could be one of those guys that you say, hey man, it's all good. Like you don't got to go to El Salvador. Take a little bit of a rest here. Figure out what your future is, because he's talked about it. He'd like to make a transfer. Still question marks on whether that gets done. Okay, how about in the midfield? Dave, who would you go with?
Wait, we can't gloss over the Aaron Long thing, because this is the other thing that people are absolutely insane about right now.
I was going to say the word wrong. Say the word wrong.
What's the word choice? What's the word choice? Yeah, I think they're crazy. Personally, I don't know that. We had people being like, he can't possibly be there. I'm like, well, then who? Who's performed better? Who's more complimentary to Zimmerman? Who would you feel more comfortable with in a World Cup game? To me, it is not CCV. It's not Eric Palmer Brown in that situation. It is.
So what is the issue?
Long.
What is your issue with CCV?
Well, one, reps with this group. That's like sort of a starting point issue for me, because I think that the center back is a relationship position in a lot of ways. It just doesn't have to be innate, but it damn sure helps if it is. And also, I just don't think he's better than Long. I think Gregg Berhalter he's shown that for years. Like whether it be before Long had the Achilles injury, during the Achilles injury, the way he kept him connected, and the way he put him right back in when the opportunity presented itself. I just think Gregg rates him higher. I rate him higher overall. And I just think he has a better relationship with Walker Zimmerman, which I believe to be one of the most important attributes for that second center back.
Gasman?
I wouldn't say reps is a reasonable argument, because Walker wasn't in the team when Aaron was, and then Aaron wasn't in the team when Walker was. So, like, these are their reps, which
Correct.
If you give CCV 2 games here, he becomes equal. I get what you're saying. They know each other better as human beings. They've been around camps together more. They have a relationship. I would assume they're also, probably similar age group, both grew up here. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that that's a full argument. I think Aaron Long's a better passer of the ball than CCV. I think he's better in the air. So I think I wouldn't say there's holes in Aaron Long's game that CCV is better at. So I don't know how he gets on the field over Aaron Long, except for mistakes. And I think we've already disagreed about this. I thought Aaron Long's been really good in the 2 windows, and I thought the scrambling that he did was putting out fires that were created structurally and by other people, not by himself. And I thought he did it well since they haven't given up a goal so far in these 2 friendlies. So I don't think he's played himself off, and I don't see any part of the game where you look at it and say, well, Cameron Carter-Vickers has this skill set that Aaron Long does not have, and therefore we want to push him into the team and play him.
So go back to the relationship thing. If you were going to give reps with Zimmerman, if you're giving them to CCV right now, and I guess you could look and say Chris Richards, he's not here, but you would think he's the other guy that you would want to give those reps to. Like if it's Long or Richards, and it sort of seems like that is the decision. Again, we could be wrong. You give them to Long then. Like you give more time with the guy you think is more likely to play with Zimmerman. And then CCV can have a moment in El Salvador. But I also just think he hasn't been around. And him not being around, I don't know, that says a lot to me about where Gregg sees him.
So the only thing I push back with that is it's the same with Scally where, yeah, during World Cup qualifying, there was no time to test it. And once people were in, they were in. But this is the chance. Like, you don't want to waste this moment and say in September, well, Cameron Carter-Vickers has no reps. Well, that's all on Gregg Berhalter at that moment if he thinks that he's a player that he wants out there on the field. But I agree with you. I think it goes Long and Richards in this spot. And so now you're saying, well, is the guy who's the third option at this position the one that I should be giving the minutes to in this moment?
For what it's worth, I think Carter-Vickers is going to play some in
each
of these 2 games.
For sure.
But I feel like right now the center back depth chart is probably Zimmerman number 1, Richards when he gets healthy and playing number 2, Long number 3, and then I think CCV might have pushed ahead to be number 4. But I mean, we'll see. But I don't think it's a given that Long is going to start on Friday, or I don't think anything is a given from this group other than Zimmerman being the number 1 on the depth chart.
I think, we were sort of debating really depth chart right there.
Yeah.
We talked about it could be a B-plus team for Gregg, could be a B, quote-unquote, B team. And that could mean that this is a good opportunity to get CCV that rep or to get Eric Palmer-Brown that rep and just say, hey, look, we're not going to be under a ton of pressure. It's not a situation like Uruguay where I have to see you against, Darwin Nunez and, all these guys that have real pedigrees that we're going to see at the World Cup. So, I mean, any way he goes on here, I'm not going to be upset about any of it.
I know no one cares, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway with Grenada. They do have Jamal Charles. They do have Carlton Belmar. They do have Shavar Brown. They do have threats in the attack. And so there will be, I think, a good test of if they do sit deep and counter, there is 1v1 defending to be done there. And I think it should be interesting to see how they handle it. Also, if Shawri was coach, they wouldn't bunker. He was Barcelona of the Caribbean. Their team was so good, and they've taken so many steps back since he left.
Sad that we won't have you on that watch along, Dave. Very sad.
But in spirit, if Belson doesn't get mentioned, we riot, Anders. No.
Okay. All right. How about midfield? Doyle, give us your take on the midfield real quick. Anders is about to freak out on us because every time we say we're going to finish in a certain time.
McKenzie, Musa, and Adams. McKennie, Musa, and Adams. I understand the argument. We already hashed it out, but I want to see those guys get more reps together. I'm curious what shape it'll be, and then make what changes you need to make at halftime or the hour mark.
Doyle can't have Musa not start because he doesn't want to come up with a new acronym. That's the whole point of it. It's too much work.
AMA.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, AMA. You can just throw that out there. Gio is Reyna.
You don't think Kellen gets the start here? I guess what I'm asking, you think that these players play and then they leave, right?
I think some of them do. Yeah, and I think Kellen probably gets the start down in El Salvador.
Okay.
All right, up top it sounds like it's Jesus. Any issues with that?
I would rather see Haji.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully we'll see Haji start one of these 2 games. And the argument for Jesus is that the team keeps playing really well when he's on the field. The argument against him is he's not finishing. And so what I want to see is, can the team play just as well with Haji on the field? Through 2 games, the answer has been no. But I want to see, if he can, if that's just small size, sample size, a happenstance, whatever. But I really want to see Haji in both of these games for a decent run out.
This feels like a if he starts a Jesus game where he scores a couple.
Bag him, baby. Bag 'em up.
Anytime Ariola's on the field with him, they're getting goals. You better believe that. Club or country, baby. All right, let's talk Canadian national team real quick, Dave, and I'll let you lead this one since you're our honorary Canadian. They played tonight against Curacao. We already mentioned that. Tesho.
Wait, so that means we're taking it for granted that Pulisic and Weah start on the wings?
We're not. No,
we just have to move on, Doyle.
Yeah.
That's what we're taking for granted.
If you want to make a play for somebody else, make your play. Do you think it could be Areola?
No, let's
Morris?
see Pulisic and Weah. Hopefully they score 1 million goals. Everybody walks out of this game super confident. Let's talk about Canada.
No, let's do it. Big questions for Canada ahead of the World Cup, Dave. Obviously, Curacao, as I said, tonight, and hard for us to talk too much about what's going to happen on the field when they haven't been on the field. So we identified 4 big questions. I will pose them to you, and I will let you expound. The first one is, how much of an issue are these protests and the pay issue going to be come November? I mean, they've already missed out on what was supposed to be a high-level World Cup bound squad in Iran, and obviously the geopolitical issues blew that one up. And then Panama and the protests ended that match. How much of a role does this play in their prep and their performance in Qatar?
Anders crushing. Yeah.
I'm just trying to ignore the chat right now. Just trying.
Oh man, that made me LOL. I don't think it'll be a huge issue in that they didn't get the time and chances to play. The Iran game is a miss, but that has nothing to do with what these protests were. That game was canceled for separate reasons. It was clearly a mistake by the Canadian Soccer Association. That was a huge miss. A chance to play a non-CONCACAF team for a group that, remember, they had qualifying longer than what the U.S. and Mexico, Costa Rica has, because they didn't auto-qualify to the Ocho. So they haven't played friendlies against non-CONCACAF teams basically since COVID. And just that opportunity, that's a huge miss. And this was your one chance, and that's a mistake. In terms of not playing and not practicing, it obviously will hurt you. A national team doesn't get to be together as long. But their group has been solidified all the way pretty much through that qualifying round into the Ocho. And so when you look at the U.S. and say, well, you want to get players' experience and chemistry and where do guys stand and what position, Canada has less of those questions, and I think they are more of a solidified unit. If anything, culturally, this may have been a rallying point for the group again. Us against the world. It was us against CONCACAF, and now it's us against the CSA. It's not the way you want it to be. So the one issue I think that does stand out to me, though, is if you go to Qatar and you genuinely don't trust the association that's setting your travel, that's bringing you there, that's you're hoping, part of the fight, taking care of your families, that can be a distraction, and that would be an issue. And so if that maintains, if that continues, I do worry about that for the players going down. We've seen it from other national teams. Remember what happened with Ghana in 2014 and sort of how they performed, which was below what they expected. We saw it in 2018 with Spain, I think, as well. When there's those other distractions, it can hurt you. But in terms of the group playing soccer, I don't think it'll be as massive an issue as it would be for other programs.
All right, how about this? Alphonso Davies has not played a ton for this Canadian national team recently because of well-documented injuries. Just saw an interesting tweet that the last time Canada played Curacao, that was in June 2017, I believe in the Gold Cup, almost 5 years ago. He made his debut, Alphonso Davies did, in that game, and that was a hell of a tournament for him. Since then, 30 caps, 10 goals, 15 assists, qualified for a World Cup and much more at the club level. How do they use Alphonso Davies in the World Cup? Is he a wingback? Is he a winger? What is he, and how does John Herdman figure that out?
How he figures it out, I think, this is his experimentation time. This is his chance with his few friendlies to sort of try some different things. If you go back to the beginning of qualifying for them, he was a left wing back, and they played Sam Adekugbe a lot at left center back, or Kamal Miller, two guys who can go out into space and then defend like a genuine fullback. And it was, I think, comfortable for Alphonso Davies, what he was playing at his club level, but it was also the best way to get him freedom, to open up the game and say, you can come from this position, but you can go find the game wherever you want, and we have space to cover for you. The quality of Sam Adekugbe, I think, sort of pushed then John Herdman to say, well, I don't even have to play him as a fake wingback. I can just play him higher up the field. I don't always love that because I think he's at his best seeing the whole field in front of him and attacking rather than coming back to get the ball at times and having to turn and go. And I think part of that is he doesn't do it that often with his club team at Bayern. But it was successful, and it did work. He had a really good relationship with Kyle Larin, who can float out wide and find his spots. But I go back to that and saying at the beginning of qualifying, it felt like John Herdman was being safe in playing him there. And I wonder if the jump from qualifying to World Cup now, he does something similar to open things up against the Belgium and says, I have a world-class left back. I can play 5 to keep gaps a little bit smaller. I can protect a Steven Vittoria in that way as well if I have to. And it puts Alphonso Davies still in a comfortable position to attack. It also is interesting now with the emergence of Tajon Buchanan, who could potentially be your right wing back. It might fit for everyone. So I think his positioning is probably going to be a domino for most of what happens for this team.
Right back then. Richie, Tajon, wing back? Alistair Johnson?
Those were questions.
Yeah.
I thought those were just names.
There was inflection, David.
Got it.
Okay.
Listen, Canada has a terrible history of playing players who aren't playing at their club teams. That seemed to be a thing of the past.
Club
Yeah,
teams.
I was right behind you. I was like in the Congo line of that one, ready to make that joke.
I don't know that Unattached has had a huge performance at the World Cup before, and they were hoping for a chance here. Richie's obviously with Nottingham Forest, their Premier League team. He has not played for them. He did play in the last window every game without playing for Nottingham Forest. So we've seen already John Herdman say, I still trust your level of performance and know what I can get from you. It would be shocking to me if he started in a World Cup without playing at all at his club level. We've heard some rumors that he might be moving, but I'd be surprised if this camp doesn't start with Tajon Buchanan playing in one of those spots as well as with the attacking options you have.
I need to interject, right? Mm-hmm. He struggled. He didn't play much at the start. He actually played 5 of the final 6 games for Nottingham Forest. He never played more. Well, he only started the final game. Other than that, it was all pretty brief sub appearances. But he had broken into the rotation at the very least by the end of the championship season. Now, whether that's because Nottingham Forest were already were they? No, they weren't already.
They had clinched a place in the playoffs, I think, though.
Okay,
they didn't. They had to go through the playoff to get there.
Yeah, so. He was playing pretty significant games.
Not significant minutes, though.
Right. I still think that this is going to be if he's a 10-minute-a-game sub for a Premier League team next year, he's going to be fine at the World Cup. I think he has the talent to be that. So I think that this conversation is going to end up being a red herring.
That's fair. And the rumors are that Jed Spence, who's ahead of him, will be going to a bigger club, and maybe that playing him late in the season was to develop him to start him next year. It doesn't feel like that, but you never know.
What's the right World Cup role for Atiba? Then we'll get to Brandon Vazquez and just make Anders pull his hair out and talk MLS.
I think it's tough. I think the schedule for Canada is you wish you had Morocco first, right? You want Atiba on the field in the biggest game to set the tone, but you also want to win the games that Atiba plays. It's 3 games in 8 days. I could be wrong. He's a marvel of humanity. He is an incredible professional. Maybe he can start 3 games in 8 days. He's been waiting his whole life for this. It could happen. I wouldn't do it, but I think he has to start the first game at the World Cup from an emotional point of view, and that's what we saw in qualifying. Starting big games, even when we didn't expect it, traveling back just to play in one game, and then going back to Besiktas because you weren't even going to waste him in other games. He was always there in those big moments to sort of set the tone. And it feels like it's his spot there that Marc-Anthony Kaye is trying to fill in and replace, unless you go really safe with Sam Piet, which I think would be a curveball. So I think part of this window was going to be how does Jonathan Osorio fit into the midfield 3 when everyone's healthy, and him being hurt really, I think, throws a wrench in that, because I think Kaye lost minutes towards the end of qualifying, especially with the red card in Costa Rica. As soft as you thought it may be, it was a mistake, and it was a mistake that put your team in a bad spot. And so it felt like Oso could fight his way into, whether it's in that midfield too or ahead of them as someone who can help still protect and win balls around Eustachio. And so right now it feels like Atiba might be a 3-game player, which seems like a dangerous way to go into this.
All right. We've answered 4 questions for Canada. We'll see what happens tonight against Curaçao and talk more about them on Monday, of course. Just some news for you. It sounds like June 16th, FIFA is going to make the announcement for host cities for the 2016 World Cup. Some of those cities will be in Canada, some in Mexico, some in the United States. I know there's an event here in Kansas City. Fingers crossed that means good news for my fellow folks in the City of Fountains or
Man, Charlie wishes he was on right now to smoke you about being an SKC fan.
Well, he wishes, but he's not here. He's stuck in traffic. Sucker. All right, we're going to talk MLS when we come back from an interview with Brandon Vazquez, rising star with FC Cincinnati. Oh, it's an AT&T 5G call to the field. To the Queen City we go. Cincinnati, Brandon Vazquez. Check the Golden Boot charts. There's a 23-year-old American up there. We haven't said that all the time. Brandon, what's up, man? Welcome to Extra Time.
What's going on, guys? Thank you guys for having me.
So we're going to talk about a lot here. We'll get through, obviously your path to Cincinnati and this year and all the success that you are enjoying, the U.S. national team, and, maybe how close you feel you are to that point in time. But, God, Twitter just wants to know about pancakes. So I have to understand why it is that pancakes, brands of pancakes, methods of consumption of pancakes, of which I thought there was really only one, is so important to the Cincinnati fan base when it comes to Brandon Vazquez.
Well, I mean, it's not like I've always eaten pancakes on game days, It's just what I happen to have for breakfast that day, and now it's the thing. I guess I'm the pancake guy now. I mean, I like waffles and French toast just as much.
So wait, that day, that's the opening day. When is that day for you? What is the origin story for these pancakes?
That morning, I just woke up. We were playing Inter Miami later that night, or it was actually like a 1 p.m. game, and I just happened to have pancakes that day. That's just what I woke up feeling like having, and yeah, after that, it was just a thing.
Are we close on a pancake sponsorship? Do we need to help do some of the legwork on this?
Actually, some of the people on the media team are working with Kodiak Pancakes to get me that. That's actually pretty good.
What? Those are the protein pancakes, right? I'm pretty sure I got those upstairs. Yeah, look,
Yep,
I'm already on brand.
fire.
I'm already on brand. So let's jump into things here with you. And you've had a little break, and you're back, and you don't play this weekend, but you're with FC Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what you did over this break, because you go on Instagram, you see what players are doing, you see lounging on beaches for some, different sort of vacations for others. What was your break like here?
Yeah, so my fiance and I, we went down to Playa del Carmen. It's like 30, 40 minutes down south from Cancun. We have our wedding down there in December, so we went to go check out our wedding venue, do food tastings, and check out a couple different resorts to see where we want our families to stay at.
The come-up.
Not a bad weekend.
Yeah, it was busy, but it was also nice because it was the times that we had to chill, the moments. We got to relax on the beach a little bit and poolside, which was nice.
What's the vibe for the Vazquez wedding? And how much input do you have on said vibe?
50-50, we're both, the input's 50-50 for sure.
What was the most important thing to you? What was the one thing that you were like, I need to have this? Because I'm doing my own wedding right now, and I'm thinking about that as well.
Mexican food at the wedding.
That's fair.
But we're going to be in Mexico.
So it's easy.
It's easy. And in December, there's only a handful of places that are warm. So we chose Mexico and the motherland, so we got that figured out.
Mine was falafel, so I'm on the food side as well. But mine was a little bit different. But you mentioned living in Mexico or being from Mexico originally. You played for Cholos, obviously, down there before we get into your MLS career. What was, when you look back, the decision to go there to finish out your youth career, and what was the experience like playing down with a Liga MX club?
Yeah, the decision really came from my dad because I started playing down there when I was 13. Playing with a youth academy of a pro team compared to my club team where I was training 3 times a week, compared to Cholos where I was training 6 times a week, it just made sense that if I wanted to take the route of playing professionally, it'd be the smarter thing to do. So at the moment, it was a decision from my dad. Obviously, I just wanted to play. I didn't care where I was playing, and if I get to play more times a week, then I was happy about it. And so yeah, I mean, I was there for 5 years from the time I was 13 until I was 18, and at 18 I went to Atlanta. And playing in Mexico was great.
Did you feel like you had an opportunity to make the jump to the first team with Tijuana?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I made my debut with the first team at 17. So, yeah, I definitely got that opportunity. I made my debut under Piojo Herrera. He was the Mexican national team coach for a while for Club America, and I believe now he's at Tigres, maybe?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah, so I did get a good opportunity. I think I only played a couple preseason games with the first team, and then it was like equivalent of Open Cup with the first team, and then I went to Atlanta, so I didn't have more opportunities.
Tell us about Piojo from your point of view, and what was the environment like, and what's the difference between an environment in a Liga MX club versus an MLS club?
I mean, it was intense. I mean, I was still like 16, 17 training with the first team. You know, I was quiet. I was just trying to get my work in, and like I wasn't talking much with all the other players, like the older players. I was, I don't know, I was just kind of still that nervous young kid, just trying to prove myself in training and let my work do the talking for me, you know. So I would, yeah, training sessions were good. I felt comfortable with the team, and yeah, they were intense. I like that about it.
When you see from being in Atlanta and now being in Cincinnati, the way youth players are brought into the first team compared to what was done at Cholos, is it different? Is it similar?
Yeah, it's pretty similar, because my first preseason with the first team, there was a handful of the younger guys from like U17s, U20s that travel with the first team for preseason. And for example, this preseason with Cincy, we had a handful of academy guys as well. Even a 14-year-old Steven Jimenez here,
Baller.
He was training with us, and he was balling out. So yeah, I mean, I would say the opportunity was there for sure.
So development isn't linear, and we talk about this all the time. And you think about some of those like youth national team guys you were playing with at the same time, and you know, Christian's sort of the biggest name, Tyler Adams, et cetera. But you all have your own paths. Mm-hmm. So you make a decision to go to Atlanta. Tell me about that decision, and then tell me about the last 6 years from your perspective when you look at your own development, the opportunities that you've had, and what you've been able to do with them. What's like the Brandon Vazquez story directly from you, no other filters?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being on the national team with all these guys that are with the senior national team right now, I mean, Haji just making his debut, Weston McKinney, like you said, Tyler, Christian, Pariola, I played with him in Tijuana as well. And all these guys, you know, it's a small soccer world, and seeing them like succeeding, I wanted to be there with them so bad, because I had been next to them before. And then going to Atlanta, and I was stuck behind Joseph Martinez. I mean, with a player of his caliber, I completely understood my position with the team, you know. Like, if I'm not, like, he's scoring 2 goals every game, what am I going to do, you know? I'm not going to – it's going to be, like, really, really hard to bench this guy or get a lot of minutes. So, so it was great, the daily sessions with Tata Martino, with the first team, playing behind Joseph, seeing him training every day, like picking up all the good stuff from the players that I played around with, Miguel Almiron as well. Yeah, just the first couple years in Atlanta, all these amazing players that we had, getting to play next to them side by side, it was great. But I felt like my opportunity wasn't there. And then I came to Cincinnati seeking more opportunity and more playing time, and try to develop more as a player with playing time and not just in training sessions. And then, yeah, I mean, the last 3 years here, the first 2 years here at Cincinnati, 2020 and 2021, I mean, they were hard. Coming from a team that had been winning a lot to a team that was struggling to get wins, and it was definitely frustrating. And And I felt like I was in the same position I was in Atlanta, where I was getting minutes at the end of every game, and it was really frustrating. But on the inside, I knew I had to work for myself, and I had to prepare myself for when I was going to get an opportunity. You know, I never knew when that was going to be, but I just needed to be ready for it. And sometimes it was hard to get motivated because I didn't know when that opportunity was going to be, but I would just come into the training ground every day knowing that if I could just improve 1% every day, then when I do get that opportunity, I'll be sharp for it.
The mental side of the game, to me, especially early on in careers, is sort of underplayed. Like the level of patience, the level of self-belief that you have to have, even in the face of, like you're saying, frustration and what feels like and what is lack of opportunity a lot of times. How did you deal with that? Like, what were the methods that you had? Were there moments where you felt like, you mentioned lack of motivation and having to sort of rev yourself up? Like, what were some of those moments where you're like, man, I gotta snap out of whatever this is?
For sure. I mean, I had never been on the bench before in my life. You know, I've always been the goal scorer for my team. I've always been that. So first going to Atlanta and learning patience and being on the reserve squad every team, and sometimes like having to go down to play with USL because I just wasn't getting enough minutes on the first team. It was hard. It was definitely hard in my head. I mean, I had a sports psychologist for the first couple years in Atlanta too. That was kind of helping me stay motivated and just stay level-headed. You know, not get distracted with stuff on the outside world, and just like focus on my grind. You know, I mean, I've always been that type of person, and even when I was at Tijuana, I would train in the mornings and I would train in the afternoons, and so I knew what it was like to be disciplined and have my head on straight and stay on the right path. So there was a lot of times where it was very hard, where I felt like I wasn't having progress, but at the end of the day, I knew I just had to like keep working for myself regardless of the opportunities I was having with the team.
Sports psychologist, is that something you go out and do on your own, or is that something that the team sets up for you?
At that moment, yeah, I had a sports psychologist that I got from my own, that I knew back in Tijuana. So I was doing weekly calls with him on Zoom and doing my own little homework, you know, stuff he would make me do.
That's part of the grind, though, right? Like we're saying,
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
a physical side, there's a technical side, there's a mental side. And then this year, I see some videos of you after games, after wins, and for Cincinnati, that's big. For you, that's big. Scoring goals, guy has to feel good, to feel like all this work, all this time, all this effort, it's just starting to pay off for you.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say like years and years and years of just putting in that extra work. I mean, it's paying off for sure, and it feels so good, you know, like, and I'm still so hungry for it. I still feel like I haven't proven anything. So, I mean, I just want to go out and keep doing what I've been doing. I mean, I just want more, you know. I just want more. I'm hungry for it.
What's from so far this year? Is there one goal, one win, one moment that like stands out as I made it, or is just your favorite of what's happened?
I think it was my first two goals versus Orlando. I think it was just like the beginning of the season, and it was just kind of like a feeling of I'm back, you know? Like I ended the season off strong last year, and I think it was the third game of the season. I scored the first two goals. We won 2-1 that game. And it was just like a boost of confidence, you know, like, yeah, I still got it, you know.
You said in a recent interview, I've picked up pieces of everything, all the best players I've played with. I'm curious what you would identify as sort of those tools that you've put into your toolbox. Who did you learn them from? What are they? How do you use them?
For sure. I mean, playing with Joseph Martinez, he was just a killer in the box, you know. So his movements in the box, his like just his intelligence of being in the right place at the right time, and just being a killer, you know. So I think that's a lot that I've tried to put into my game of just if I get one opportunity, then it has to go in, you know. And I feel like in training sessions and the extra work that I put in after training ends with coaches. It's just like, it's trying to get that confidence. So when I do have just one opportunity in a game, it's just, it could be the thing that makes the difference, you know? So I try to position myself in the box in the right way and try to just be unpredictable, you know? And just try to be a killer the way Joseph was.
You've got a pretty big teammate this year in Lucho Acosta who's helped you a lot, who's helped bring things along. What is it that makes him special, and sort of how do you learn to read him, and how do you learn to get the best from the both of you?
Yeah, I mean, Lucho's an incredible player. He's unpredictable for sure. He's amazing on the ball. I mean, you see him between 2-3 players, and he comes out of those situations, and it's pretty incredible to see. But yeah, playing with him has been great. I know he has the capability to put in through balls that other players just don't see sometimes. So it's really great playing with him. Yeah.
I remember a moment, and I want to say it was against Montreal, and this is my favorite goal that you've scored this year, and I think it was Gregg Berhalter's favorite goal. He said publicly that you've scored as well. I want to say it was late on. Lucho plays that little through ball to the right side, and you got those runners off of you, and you make the little deke to the front, to the near post, and then you hit the brakes and you come around more centrally, and boom, there's the ball aside. Yeah. Tell me about movement, how you learn movement. I just saw Taylor Twellman tweet that goal scoring is not a science, it's an art. So when you think about the art of movement, how do you sort of compartmentalize that? How do you practice that? How do you execute that? How do you see those moments in a game?
For sure. After being in situations like that daily in training sessions, it's like, for me, I was seeing Lucho on the ball, seeing Calvin making his run in behind the back line. I knew he was going to get there. I knew the ball was coming in. So I peeled off to the defense. I think it was Boxall's like his shoulder, so on his blind side. So Calvin gets the ball in behind, and I make my sprint as soon as Boxall looks over his shoulder to make him think I'm going back post. And then, as soon as he looks back at the ball and he loses eyesight of me, that's when I change up my run, you know. So that's the stuff I'm looking at, where I'm looking not only at my player, at my teammate, but also playing with the defender's mind a little bit, you know. I feel like off the ball movements are more important than on the ball. So especially as a forward in the box.
Do you, 2 questions, 2-part. 1, do you make runs over the course of a game to future set up another run? Are you doing that? Is that a thought process? And do you talk to defenders?
Like defenders,
do you talk
on my team, or
do you talk
or
smack? Do you talk to get in their head? Is that part of it?
I have before. I'm not huge in if a defender initiates that, and I know it's gonna be that kind of game where it's just a talking all game, you know, I could play that. But usually I'm more focused on what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, some of my runs are just to pull the lines apart, you know. Sometimes it's an unselfish run, like coaches say. Like sometimes I make the running behind, but not because the run is the better option, but just to pull center backs behind to create more space underneath for Lucho, or just situations like that.
Is there a film element to this with you? I mean, I think about Pat Noonan and his career in the league and the players he's worked with, and also development. And I would think that film would be a big part of this, both examining your own tendencies and runs within a game, but also kind of showing you different guys throughout time that you can emulate or look to.
For sure. We do. I do film a lot with Dominic Kinnear here. He works with me a lot, and I'm really grateful for him. He's put in a lot of extra time with me, and we look at film from my past games. We break down every play I'm in. And what I've done good, what I could do better, and what I just need to improve on overall. So definitely a lot of film, yeah.
Dom Kinnear and Pat Noonan, part of this new regime for FC Cincinnati. The results have been brand new for FC Cincinnati and MLS. What on the inside, what has changed? What is it that has led to this?
I think it's the trust that that we all have in this coaching staff. I mean, this coaching staff's amazing, and the understanding of what they want as a team, we're all on the same page. So we all know the work we have to do and everybody's role, and I think everybody's been doing it great.
What kind of team are FC Cincinnati? If somebody came to you that has never watched a single one of your games, that wants to understand the style of play, the identity that you have, what you're trying to be, what would you tell them?
We're trying to be dangerous. We're trying to be a dangerous team, you know. We're trying to be, just make teams fearful, I guess. I mean, I think we're a dangerous team, man. I think when
tactically it doesn't seem like there's a governor, so to speak, like on the attacking side. In some ways, it seems like Cincinnati, you guys are willing to sometimes leave a gap or two because you believe so much in your ability to get forward and get at teams. Is that off?
For sure, especially with having a player like Lucho where he creates stuff out of nothing. We have a lot of freedom on the attacking side, and I mean, the coach has trust in us to do our thing, and we create a lot up top, so I think it's worked out for us quite well.
How do you judge your own performances? You know, strikers are judged by goals. That's what
for sure.
Is sort of conventional knowledge.
For sure.
Are you a big XG guy? Or you have 3 assists this year, your hold-up play, unselfish runs? Like when you go back with Dom and take a look at a performance, how do you judge it in the whole, not just on like, hey, Brandon had 2 goals, good game.
For sure. I mean, I know everybody looks at goals, but I think for me, it's being all-around team player, like if it's dragging players away, like defenders away, so that other players can come in and have a better position to score. And for me, it's doing more good and resolving plays, and when I have the ball at my feet, resolving more plays rather than making mistakes. If I'm creating chances for the team and I'm helping the team win, then I think that's what matters the most. I mean, of course, I love when I score. I love when I assist. I love when I'm like in the plays as well. But as long as the team's winning, I'm happy.
We've been talking FC Cincinnati this whole time, but conversation around you is also around the U.S. men's national team. Gregg Berhalter said, quote, he's close. Have you spoken to him recently? What's been your interactions with the national team pool?
Yeah, for sure. I spoke to Gregg a couple weeks ago. He said he likes my movement likes my movement in the box, and to keep scoring, to keep this momentum up, and that anything could happen. It's a World Cup year, so I know it's harder to like make it into a squad that's already been working for years together for this tournament, but anything can happen, and to keep scoring goals, keep this momentum up, and that I could get the opportunity just to stay ready for it.
Were you already down in Playa del Carmen before the U.S. got to Cincy, or were you around when they played in Cincinnati?
Yeah, I was around when they played here.
Did you go to the game? Did you like talk to any of your boys? I mean, you said the soccer world is small. I mean, those guys, you go way back.
For sure. The day before the game, they train here at our training ground, so I got to catch up with a lot of my boys that are on the team. And I watched the game. I thought it was a great result, 3-0. Can't ask for more.
How close are you with those guys? I know the U17s, Pulisic, Adams, Luca Del Torre, Haji Wright. How close is this group still?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks like the chemistry's there, I mean, you see how good the team's doing, and being just hearing conversations and talking to my boys there, everything looks amazing. I mean, the squad looks real tight knit, so I'm happy for it.
Did you know that this was like a career like this was possible for Christian when you played with him? I mean, I'm looking back at you. I mean, you scored twice in that U17 World Cup. You were a big dog yourself. Did you look at Christian at that time and think like, oh dang?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, Christian's always been an unbelievable player. So yeah, I knew he had the capabilities for it, for sure. And I mean, I'm not surprised at all that he's at where he's at today. So I'm happy for him, for sure.
We've been banging the Vazquez for USMNT drum on the show. We'll see if I don't know if I think Gregg sometimes listens.
It might be a bad thing for you.
Yeah, when he disagrees with us, he often listens, I think. But we hope you get there. What would it mean to you to get into that team, for one? And is there still a dual national decision for you? I mean, you talked about your dad and the decision to play at Cholos, but correct me if I'm wrong, you'd still be eligible for Mexico if the U.S. Do you feel like you've made a decision? Where does that stand for you?
No, I haven't. I haven't made a decision. Yeah, I'm still eligible for Mexico. So yeah, I don't know. Doors are open for both. I guess I'll have to make that decision when we cross that bridge. Yeah.
Well, all right. That's the way it goes. We'll see what happens. A lot of bridges being crossed this year for you.
Either way, we'll all meet up in Playa del Carmen soon. Don't worry.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see you in Playa. Congratulations,
Nice.
Brandon, on the upcoming nuptials, and then obviously
so
on all
much.
the success with Cincinnati, man. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and here's hoping you're signing on a pancake dotted line very, very soon.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Transfer time. Should we start with Adam Buksa, $10 million, the price tag? What happens next for the Revs? Mauro Manotas to the Crew. That's fairly interesting, if a bit underwhelming. But no, Doyle, no. Griffin Yow to Westerlo is where we start. It pays to be a DC United player who has Belgium in their eyes.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to
are we really doing a bit on Griffin Yow? Like this is like the Chris Durkin thing, right? He's a pretty good homegrown product. He's not breaking through into starters minutes with the first team, and a team in Belgium is willing to take a flyer. Good move. Good. Hopefully the kid can get minutes. Hopefully DC gets a little money out of it, and the pipeline continues to flow.
Yeah, Westerlo sounds like a house in Game of Thrones. We'll see. I hope it makes the move here. Griffin, yeah, let's go, buddy. How about Mauro Manotas to the Crew, originally reported by Sam Stejskal and I believe Paul Tenorio. Obviously, DP spot open. They say the Crew is considering a DP move for Mauro Manotas, who we know very well from his Houston days. 51 goals, 17 assists in about 150 regular season appearances with the Dynamo. And then he went to TJ for a couple mil in 2020. And his numbers for Cholos is 10 goals, 5 assists, and 47 appearances. This is not what I expected with the DP spot.
What did you expect?
I expected that Liga MX would certainly be in play, but I expected perhaps a Liga MX profile more in line with, like, maybe even a Raul Ruiz Diaz sort of.
Which would be at the very top of DP spending, right?
Not the very top. I think it would be in the top tier, but it wouldn't be like
it would be a tier above
Atlanta.
this.
Correct. It would be. It would certainly be a tier above this. Yeah.
I mean, Mauro Manotas' career trend since that 19-goal season, it has not been great. So,
I'll say I think he's a gettable player, obviously, which is part of what you need to accomplish. And he would be someone who you'd hope would understand the league and so might fit in quicker. I think Columbus is stuck between, like, let's get younger, but also everyone else. If we're going to win with Mensah and Room, and they brought in Deganek, who's 30 plus, and even Zelarayan, like, you have to look win now as well, as bad as they've been this season. So it's, I guess, therefore it's not shocking, but it is underwhelming that this is not a player who is going to take over and change your reality. He's just similar to Giassi Zardes.
I mean, like Dineno would be at least like more of the, hey, not the very, very top, maybe because he's coming out of contract, more of a, a value sort of, but still high profile, high production signing. But it sounds like Cruz Azul is after Dineno, so doesn't sound like he's going to come. I don't know. It doesn't jump off the page for me. We'll see if that's the wrong reaction. We'll see if it even gets done. It's just considering a DP move right now for Mauro Manotas. How about this? Doyle, is $10 million good business for Adam Buksa, and what's the business now for the Revs?
It does seem like good business for Adam Buksa. Like he's been one of the 2 or 3 best center forwards in MLS the past year and a half. Even better this year, I think, than he was last year. He's in his prime. He's probably going to be the heir to Robert Lewandowski, who's a pretty decent player with that Polish national team. 10 million seems fair. 10 million to a team in a top 5 league that I believe did they qualify for the Europa League?
They were just outside.
Outside the Europa League.
Yeah.
They finished 7th, right?
Yeah.
But obviously is trying to take another step. And teams like that in France, if they take that step, they almost always end up selling their players at just a massive markup. So this is very clearly the path for Adam Buksa. It's really good from him. I think $10 million, 8 figures, is a very fair price for the Revs. And if you look at it now, what they've done between Buksa, Tejan, and Matt Turner, that's almost $30 million. I guess maybe a little closer to $25 million over the course of 3 windows. That's really good stuff right there.
I think 24 million was the number that out of all the official stuff that you take. They knew this was coming. What now is what you talked about for 5.5 months with Josie Altidore. Like they knew all of this was happening. It wasn't a possibility. It was the reality. Matt Turner was always gone. Tejan's already was out. And everyone knew that Adam Buksa was going to move this summer. And it felt like internally they knew that. They've already brought in Barreiro as the replacement for Tejan, who we've seen a few flashes of off the bench. And they brought Josie in on that huge TAM deal, and they have Gustavo Bo. So it definitely kills them to lose, as Doyle said, one of the best strikers in Major League Soccer. But this isn't out of nowhere. This isn't, oh my God, we got this home run deal we didn't see coming. Now we have to scramble and handle it. Like, this was what you built for. And 2 years ago, they went to an Eastern Conference Finals without Adam Buksa being a factor, right? It was Gustavo Bo and Carlos Gil that really powered them through that playoffs. They were like an 8 seed going in, or a 7 seed. They didn't have a great regular season in 2020, but they were able to get performances out of the playoffs, and that's sort of probably where they're going to go back to.
Yeah, I guess when I say where do they go now, it comes down to, is Josie up to it?
It might
better be.
Because he might not have to be. He might, but like they've
No,
been,
he better be, is what I said.
Yeah, I mean, I have been very hopeful that he will be, but not entirely sure that he will be. But I'm very hopeful. I would love to see him come back and ball. We haven't seen a ton of indications of that so far. But the Revs at their best, I think, over the last couple of years here, have been with the partnership between Buksa and Bo really evolving and giving, Carlos Gil more to work with as far as a guy that's going to drop off, he can play to and play off of, and then fullbacks to get forward and cross. And they created a lot of opportunities and do create a lot of opportunities via the cross. That's not always been Josie's strong point. Certainly is Buksa's strong point. He's like the best goal scorer in the league with his head, and that is not Gustavo Bo's strong point. So I wonder if and whether anything changes for them as far as how they attempt to create chances and what that relationship between Bo and Altidore looks like. If there needs to be one, maybe it is just going to be loan forward with Gustavo Bo. I don't know, but they're going to have to figure it out because Buksa was a driver of a lot of what they did. How about this? Christian Fuchs came out. There was not a lot of details from Zoran Grenada about why they fired Miguel Angel Ramirez, Charlotte FC. Christian Fuchs came out. One of the things he said, I don't think it's fair to speak down on somebody who can't defend themselves, and going into details is not fair because I only have 10 minutes left in the interview. But he managed to go into a decent number of details all the same. Let's see. Here's some good quotes. I'll just throw them out and get your reaction on this. If you go to work and you love to go, that means something is going right. I don't want to say that has not been the case under Ramirez, but for most parts, it was not the case. For me, it was an overall disappointment in terms of him not being able to really connect with us. There were certain fractures between the coaching staff and players. That's pretty well reported. We understood that at this point. His relationship was, quote, an interesting one. It was not easy. The issue is when you tried to address a problem, most of the times the door was shut, and that didn't feel good. It was discouraging. He also said, especially with a young group of players, to use a loss to your benefit, to have post-match analysis, to talk about what you did well, what you did not do well. That's how you improve a team. It's just a process. It was non-existent under Ramirez. I'm looking forward to more of that now. And he did not get the sense that Miguel was willing to address the players' concerns. He wanted to brush them off and not deal with them. At some point, I just kept the conversations to myself. So also the other part of this is that Fuchs said that they had underperformed so far. Do you think they've underperformed? And what do you make of sort of the progression of what we know about what went down in Charlotte? Yeah, pretty clearly Miguel Angel Ramirez was not a. And look, there were some elements of this, I will say, similar elements in quotes, and you heard them from like Steve Burma and others, with Hernan Losada. Maybe just not understanding the culture of the players in the country that he was in.
I mean, it sounds like the European players were the ones who had the bigger issue with.
That's fair.
Miguel
no, that's
Angel
true.
Ramirez, right?
Yeah,
like
that's true.
Swiderski, who's probably, we don't know that he threatened not to play if Ramirez was still the coach.
We do know it's a foreign player because it was a DP.
Yeah.
So it was Kamil
Jozwiak.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And
boy,
now
those conversations in Polish camp are just fascinating.
It sounds to me like Ramirez was failing to do some of the most basic things of the job, like keep the players engaged and bought in. That's like the first job of any manager. And then after you play the game, go over the game with the team and figure out what worked and what didn't. And if you're not doing those two things, you're kind of asking to lose your job. That said, they absolutely did not underperform. Like, they've got 5 wins already. They're on track for about 35, 40 points for a debut season, which is generally pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good, especially when you consider that he has been hamstrung by the roster build. Like, this team still, you look at that roster that he had to put out his final game, there are maybe 2 guys there who you would look at and say, that's an MLS caliber starter. So I'm glad Fuchs shed some light. I think this is one where you could sort of see both sides. But what it comes down to in this sport, in any sport, is like if you lose a good chunk of the locker room as a manager, the clock's ticking, and you're probably not going to last all that much longer. And it sounds like that's what happened with Miguel Angel Ramirez.
One of the odd parts about this whole thing is, like, isn't Christian Fuchs one of those guys who probably shouldn't be an MLS starter and has been a starter under him? Like, that's what's weird about this whole conversation, where it's like he said we're screwed, and now all the players look at themselves and say, are we? But then you say you're underperforming, but you have those wins. And even after Swiderski left, they gutted through and got that win against Vancouver. I get it was a backup goalkeeper, but like in the second to last game, he won. So it's really weird the way this whole thing has gone on. He's gotten the best performances we've ever seen in MLS out of Daniel Rios. Shinyashiki's been good for him since coming in. Bender's had some good moments. So there's other times where it feels like he got a lot out of players, but clearly the environment around the team is negative. Then it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And maybe that's where you look at, okay, we've got to cut this off before it really seeps in. And then there's the other side, which is how many starters were on there. But he's got 2 DPs in central midfield, and he plays Brant Bronico every game. So the whole thing's been bizarre.
Yeah, like
and hard to sort of suss through.
Seemed like a hand-picked guy, and he hasn't got it. I mean, look, the thing is, every business is a relationship business. Like, every business. Like, if people don't want to be around you, if people are, and, it sounds like, well, you're getting paid, go to work. But, like, people who don't like their jobs quit their jobs. Like, find different jobs or make changes. And if you are not able to maintain even semi-positive or productive relationships, and look, we weren't there. We're just taking at this point, this is Christian Fuchs telling us, is Zoran Grenada basically, through the lines telling us this stuff. When those things happen, changes happen. So Charlotte, though, on ABC, first opportunity. Back at it at home. They're great at home. Red Bulls are really good on the road, though. New York Red Bulls in town. ABC on Saturday. That game's at 3 p.m. Eastern.
No Aaron Long, no Christian Casares. So that's pretty big for Red Bulls on this side. And obviously no Swiderski, I would assume, because he's still with Poland. So could be an opportunity for Charlotte.
Let's have fun at work, baby. Let's go. Nashville, San Jose, also on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Unimas Tutti and Twitter in English. That's an interesting matchup right there. And then on Sunday, Kansas City, New England, ABC, ESPN, Deportes, 3 p.m.
Man,
Eastern.
we didn't have Charlie on for the
I
ETR rivalry.
I know. Dang, that could have been really good. Didn't even think about that because I'm not a sporting Kansas City supporter.
Do you want me to get back into character? It'll take me 20 minutes.
Actually, let's end the show on that note and make Doyle roll his eyes.
You want me to do it?
No, I thought you might, but we're not going to. All right, that's it for us.
Gustavo Bo is a certified baller. When you are a number 9 on the New England Revolution, expectations exist. Let me tell you a story about Jermaine Jones,
MLS.
Lee Wynn, and
Extra
Andy
time
Dorman.
at MLSsoccer.com. We will see you on Monday, everybody. Full coverage this week at MLSsoccer.com of those games. And tune into the watch-alongs. We would love to have you. Adios.
Avery John Squad.
Congratulations, you made it through more than an hour of extra time. That means you love the show, and if you love the show, you probably want more episodes. Click right here for more episodes of Extra Time, and here to subscribe to the MLS YouTube channel. Thanks for following along.